Juana remain, even as their homeland changes around them. Their huts and lodges are cleared to make way for towns of stone and brick. The walls that are built to protect them also cut them off from the freedom of the open sea. Those Juana who trade caste and prize share for Rauatayan unity and striving prosper. Others mourn the passing of their queen and see the end of their way of life as a precursor of the doom of Eora. As Rauatayan ships close on Port Mage, Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa unite their forces in resistance. Rauatai eventually prevails, but only after a long and costly campaign. As the balance of power changes in Deadfire, so too does Nekataka transform. While Hazanui Karu directs her fleet from Ukaizo, Atsura stays behind to manage Nekataka. Under his oversight, sturdy walls and artillery batteries rise to protect the city. Ships bearing settlers from Rauatai and staple goods from the archipelago churn the waters of Queensbirth. And despite the vacancies at Kahanga Palace, Atsura retains his simple quarters in the Brass Citadel. The Royal Deadfire Company evacuates and raises the gullet, hoping to lift the Raparu out of squalor and eradicate the criminal elements. They certainly rid Nekataka of an eyesore, though the larger problems of crime and poverty prove harder to solve. Though the Watershapers Guild had been the pride of Nekataka for a century, your brutal attack left it in shambles. Years of knowledge and expertise died with the slain Watershapers. Without the secret of Ukaizo, it would likely be many years before the Juana regained what was lost. Your brief encounter with Letharn proves deeply influential for the children of the Dawnstars. Plagued with nightmares and haunted by the deaths at Hesango, Letharn begins questioning his faith in Aethys. At first, his fellow Dawnstars chide him, but that changes as word of Aethys's deeds at Ukaizo spreads. After all, what business have they worshipping a god who denied his own legitimacy? The faith of the children of the Dawnstars fades, but their commitment to the people of Deadfire does not. They continue feeding, healing, and helping the neediest, just as they have for decades. It is no longer a holy mission, but it is a mission all the same. Ships continue to disappear at the southeastern fringe of the archipelago, and stories circulate of a colony of vampires and gulls preying on their crews. The Hazanui soon sends the Rukapa, who end the horrors of Splintered Reef. The dead flow, an iceberg in the southern sea, continues to grow unchecked. As the ice spreads, so too do wild tales of a hideous dragon rampaging across the Deadfire. Word spreads of the primal island of Kazuwari, once home to an arena that hosted bloody competitions and fearsome ordeals. Wild tales whisper that the spilled blood attracted a terrible beast of scale and fang that slaughtered those gathered at the island before destroying the great enchanted statue that oversaw the island's trials. Absent its guiding voice, Kazuwari descends into anarchy. Released from their bondage to the sightless eye, the Vithrak of the Halls Obscured abandon the Black Isle and resettle in the deepest and darkest recesses of the ruins beneath Nekataka. Sisak and his colony remain secretive and isolated, however, rarely interacting with those kith crawling about in the sunlight above. Slain by your hand, the Titan of Wal poses little further threat to Eora. As the corpse decays, it putrefies into a massive nest of hungry fungal monstrosities. Vessels that anchor off the shores of the Black Isles tend to go missing, only to turn up shipwrecked months or even years later against distant shores. With time, the body collapses upon itself, and the Black Isles finally implode. Seeking a living receptacle for the essence contained within the tomes you unearthed in the halls obscured, Langgrath devotes herself to study of the Godseed. She occasionally contacts you, usually on Dragonback, to solicit your expertise and advice. Her progress with the ancient Angwithan device remains steady, if excruciatingly slow. Though your adventures alter the destiny of Aora and the balance of power in Deadfire, they also leave a lasting mark on those who travel at your side. Your companions find themselves changed in ways both big and small. In the days sailing back from Ukaizo, Adair finds himself disillusioned with all gods, his own above all. Where the gods have touched Deadfire, he sees only destruction, loss, and emptiness. He casts off all symbols of Aethys, and even begins refusing to use his name. Ultimately, he chooses to remain with you on the Defiant, knowing if any mortal is to have the final word in a conflict with the gods, it will be the Watcher of Cadnua. Shodi is not a priestess who understands the meaning of subtlety. As such, she makes her girlish crush on Adair painfully obvious from the moment she first sets eyes on the strapping fighter. Early in your travels, Adair appears discomforted by her persistent flirting. He often grimaces when she sidles up to him, and he takes endless pains to keep their conversations terse and to the point. But after a little smoothing on your part to nudge them in the right direction, Adair makes an effort to view Shodi with an open mind. And Shodi begins teasing the veteran fighter in a more companionable and less amorous manner. After saving each other's hides a couple times and sharing more than a few laughs, the two form an easy, and you suspect, lifelong friendship. Shodi's journey through the Deadfire on your ship is an eye-opening experience for the sheltered farm girl. After many souls harvested, more lives aided, and much adventure had, the priestess declares her intent to rejoin her fellow missionaries at the Temple of Gon in Neketaka. Following a shy grin and an overzealous handshake, Shodi leaves you with an open invitation to visit her anytime. It is some months later when she pens you a missive. Can you hardly believe it? Her chicken scratch handwriting reads, Samhain sailing for distant lands. She's leaving me in charge of the temple. I've been named the High Priestess of Gon. Aloth renews his commitment to destroying the Leaden Key. With the wheel broken, loosening the god's stranglehold on Kith is more urgent than ever. It is a lofty goal, and one he does not expect to finish in his lifetime. But if there's one thing he's learned from the Watcher, it's that a single person can change the world. Seraphin seems little impacted by your journey. Always knew the gods were larger than me, he tells you, on the evening he decides to part from your company. He's too long put aside those he cares most for. He confesses over a bottle of rum, and he's got leagues to sail to make it right. The following morning, he's gone, leaving only a crude stick figure rendering of Aethys, scrawled into the hull to mark his passage. Time away from the Navy gives Maya Rua some perspective on how Rawatai conducted the Deadfire occupation. No sooner does she return to active duty than she voices her frustrations over some of the more underhanded tactics she witnessed and carried out in the name of the homeland. Her voice carries all the way to the Ranganui, who reminds his admirals that battles are won by superior tactics, but war is a battle of precedent, and winning is not always a victory. The people listen. Maya's part in the conquest of Ukaizo brings fame and fortune to the Rua family. Officers salute her in passing, and a row of medals decorate the breast of her uniform. Her parents and siblings are paraded between the great houses of Rauatai for nightly dinners and celebrations. She has a hero's welcome in her future. She looks forward to seeing her brother again. So does Ashiza. Takehu distances himself from the problems of the Deadfire, giving the tribes a reprieve from godlike omens. And Gati's silence speaks volumes. The Huana grow to rely on each other, paving a new way forward divorced from their traditions. Soon after he departs Neketaka, distant tribes report of unusual and salacious water sculptures appearing on the shores. These quaint visitations are widely celebrated, the identity of the artist ever an open question. Without Takehu to wrest it back from the precipice, the Water Shapers Guild falls into permanent decline. Most of the surviving guild members don't know the ancestral art well enough to pass on their knowledge to the next generation. The art doesn't vanish entirely, but its significance diminishes. He bids you farewell, suggesting that you seek your next adventure in a brothel or tavern where consequences begin and end at the front door. He sounds eager to leave old conflicts in the past. Your pursuit of Aethys and your journey to Ukaizo signal the end of forces that have shaped the lives of Kith and the course of nations. The cycle of reincarnation has been broken. The storms of Andra's mortar have calmed. Yet each ending promises a new beginning. As the sun rises over Ukaizo, Kith turn their gaze eastward, wondering at what lies beyond, and at the world they will fashion for themselves. As the Watcher of Cadnua and the former Herald of Barith, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather.